Just a quick plug for the Best of Bedabbled, which you can currently get hold of on Amazon UK. This is the magazine of British horror and cult cinema, which has been sporadically published since 2011. They're currently up to issue number 5, and this is the best of issues 1 to 4, which are all at print now. Now, I think the early issues of this magazine were mostly sold via word of mouth and the blogspot presence that the magazine had back then. With issue 5, they decided to start selling it via Amazon UK, which, given all the horror stories I've heard from filmmakers and self-publishers who sell their wares via Amazon, has probably eaten a bit into their profits, but given them a higher visibility than before. The format of this magazine does seem to change with every issue. This is issue 3, which is kind of a pocket-sized magazine. Then with issue 4, they went for the full-size magazine look, and it's quite glossy on the inside. And then with this issue, they must have been getting pretty desperate, as they asked me to write a few things for this issue. I wrote about the Yes Girls, Groupie Girl, Sweet and Sexy, and a few vampire-themed 8mm porn loops. So basically, I brought this magazine down to the lowest common denominator. And then this is issue 5, which you can still get on Amazon UK. And with this issue, they seem to have gone with a sort of 70s contact magazine type aesthetic to it. And appropriately, this issue also contains a review of the Derek Ford film Diversions, which is a very 70s contact magazine type of a film. So this is the Best of Bedabbled, edited highlights of issues 1 to 4. And each issue of this magazine has its own theme. The theme of the first issue is Bloody Kids, which dealt with the troubled use of such films as Nothing But the Night, Bloody Kids itself. And that film with title I always manage to screw up. Is it Mumsy, Nanny, Sonny and Girly? Or is it Mumsy, Sonny, Nanny and Girly? Anyway, that one, the one they just call Girly in America, and you can understand why. There's also a review in here of that film Night Hare Child. Remember the one where the kid from Oliver is killing people and trying to bang Britt Eklund? That one. And so the theme of the second issue was Satanism in British films. So there's coverage of films like Satan's Slave, Virgin Witch, Disciple of Death, and so on and so forth. The theme of the third issue was vampires. So obviously you get coverage, again, fairly self-explanatory, you get coverage of the Jose Larraz film Vampires and Incense for the Damned and stuff like that. The theme of the fourth issue was Stranger in a Strange Land, which means those kind of kitchen sink derived films from the late 60s and early 70s where young people come to London and sort of end up getting messed up. So again, that's represented here by what films like The Yes Girls, Straight On Till Morning, Cool It Carol, Sweet and Sexy, etc, etc. Permissive, for the Lindsay Somsey film. The timeline that the magazine covers tends to be from the mid-60s to the early 80s, after which their interest in British horror and cult cinema tends to expire. I think the most recent film covered in here is Death Shot from 1981, which is enough to make anyone's interest in British horror and cult cinema expire. Anyway, this is $5.99 on Amazon, and if British horror and cult cinema is your drug, this magazine is mainlining for real.